When most people around the world think about the Statue of Liberty, they imagine her exactly as she is today, towering over the harbor. In New York, draped in a long robe, holding her torch high in one hand, and a tablet in the other, with her face set in a look of solemn determination. And of course, everyone thinks of her as that soft green color, the shade that has become so familiar on postcards, in films, and on countless souvenirs. But what if I told you that she was never meant to look this way? And that when she first arrived in the United States, she was a gleaming copper-brown figure, shining like a brand new penny under the sun. The story of how Lady Liberty changed her color is not only fascinating for the science behind it, but it also carries with it symbolism that perfectly mirrors America's own journey through history. Let's start at the beginning, because the Statue of Liberty is not just a statue, it is a story, a gift, and a symbol with layers of meaning. The idea came from France in the 1860s. A time when the United States was emerging from the Civil War. The French politician, Edouard de la Boulaye, who admired American democracy, suggested that France should present a monument to the US to celebrate freedom and to mark the centennial of American independence in 1876. The sculptor Frederick August Bartholdi took on the project, envisioning a grand female figure representing liberty, modeled in the style of ancient goddesses but dressed in neoclassical robes. Bartholdi designed the statue to be made of copper sheets, hammered by hand into shape using a method called where the metal is hammered from the inside until it curves outward into the desired form. To hold the statue up, a massive iron skeleton was required, and this framework was engineered by Gustav Eiffel, the very same engineer who later designed the Eiffel Tower. Together, the copper exterior and the iron frame created a structure both strong and flexible, able to withstand the fierce winds of New York Harbor. Now, copper was chosen not for its color, but for its durability and malleability. Fresh copper shines with a reddish-brown glow, and when the Statue of Liberty was first completed in France in the 1880s, that's exactly what she looked like. A brilliant copper figure. Imagine for a moment what it must have been like for the people who worked on her, seeing this enormous statue gleam in the Parisian sunlight, with the metallic sheen catching every ray. When the statue was dismantled into more than 300 pieces shipped across the Atlantic, in crates, and reassembled on Bedloe's Island today, called Liberty Island, in 1886, Americans got their first real look at her, and what they saw was not the soft green lady we know today, but a fiery copper-bronze goddess towering above the harbor. The dedication ceremony took place on October 28, 1886, with President Grover Cleveland presiding. As the veils were removed and the statue was revealed, the crowd gasped at her size and majesty. At that moment, the copper surface shone in the crisp autumn light, and there was not a hint of green anywhere. Photographs of the time, though black and white, describe a monument that looked dark, metallic, and almost golden, depending on the light. This was the Lady Liberty that greeted the first waves of immigrants passing through the harbor in the late 19th century. They would have seen her as a glowing copper figure. Not the green symbol we all recognize today, but copper doesn't stay shiny forever. As soon as the statue was exposed to the salty sea air, the rain, and the industrial pollution of the era, chemical changes began. Copper is a reactive metal, and when it comes into contact with oxygen, water, and carbon dioxide, it starts to form new compounds. At first, the bright copper would have slowly dulled into a darker brown. Over the next decade, shades of black and deep red began to appear. And then, as sulfur dioxide and other pollutants from coal-burning factories in New York mixed with rainwater and air, the copper began to produce copper sulfate and copper carbonate, which give off the familiar bluish-green hue. This process is known as oxidation, and the result is what scientists call patina. A patina is a thin layer that forms on the surface of metals like copper, bronze, or brass over time. Unlike rust on iron, which eats away and destroys the metal, patina acts as a protective skin. It seals the copper underneath and prevents further corrosion. For the Statue of Liberty, this was a blessing. By the early 1900s, just a few decades after her unveiling, she had already taken on the mottled green look that we associate with her today. By 1920, her transformation was complete. From head to toe, Lady Liberty was covered in a stable green patina that would preserve her for generations to come. But not everyone was happy about this change. At first, newspapers ran articles noting that the statue was turning color, and there was genuine debate about whether something should be done. Some people believed the government should polish the copper back to its original shine. After all, wasn't that how she was meant to be seen? Others worried that the green layer was evidence of damage, a sign that the statue was corroding and might eventually crumble. The debates grew louder until the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers stepped in to conduct tests. They scraped small samples of the patina and examined the copper underneath. What they found shocked many. The copper beneath the green surface was pristine, untouched by decay. In fact, the patina was working like a natural armor, keeping the statue healthy. Trying to strip it away would have destroyed that protection. And so, the decision was made to leave the statue as it was. Over time, the public adjusted. By the 1920s and 1930s, the Green Lady Liberty had become the norm, and generations of immigrants sailing past her into Ellis Island knew no other version. To them, the green color was not strange, but inspiring. It was the color of hope, the color of endurance, the color that welcomed them into a new life in America. Think about the symbolism here. The Statue of Liberty was originally designed as a copper monument, gleaming like a coin, freshly minted, but she evolved. She changed color, and that change became part of her identity. In a way, this mirrors America's own story. The country, too, started in one form and then weathered storms, wars, immigration, social upheaval, and change, and came out transformed. Just as the patina gave the statue strength and resilience, America's challenges gave the nation character and identity. The science of the color change is also fascinating. First, copper reacts with oxygen to form copper oxide, which is a dull brown or black. This is why the statue lost its initial shine fairly quickly. Then, in the presence of carbon dioxide and water, copper carbonate begins to form, which has that light greenish tint. Add in sulfur compounds from pollutionists, especially from burning coal in the late 1800s, and you get copper sulfate, which contributes to the bluish tones. Together, these reactions create the patchwork of blue-green that eventually settles into the even patina we see today. The process probably took about 20 to 30 years, which is remarkably fast, given the statue's size and the thickness of the copper sheets. But the New York environment, with its salty sea air and industrial smog, sped everything up. Today, the green color is so permanent in our imagination that it feels almost impossible to picture her any other way. But there are colorized illustrations and modern digital renderings that show what the original copper statue might have looked like. And it's striking. Instead of a calm, cool green figure, you see a fiery, reddish-brown monument, almost golden at certain angles. It's beautiful, but it doesn't quite have the same timeless aura. Perhaps that's why fate stepped in with chemistry, giving Lady Liberty the green coat that made her eternal. The statue's changing color also sparked a broader conversation about monuments and preservation. It taught people that sometimes change is not only inevitable but beneficial. Attempts to restore the statue to its copper glow would have stripped away history itself. Leaving her green allowed her to age naturally, becoming a living monument that carries the marks of time. When immigrants saw her, they didn't see decay, they saw strength, endurance, and welcome. The Statue of Liberty has since become one of the most recognized symbols in the world. Her color is central to her identity. Children learn to draw her with green crayons. Artists paint her in green, and even emojis and pop culture depictions never stray from that hue. In fact, her green patina has become as symbolic as her torch or her crown. And all of this came about not by design, but by accident, through the natural process of copper reacting with the world around it. Over the decades, Lady Liberty has been cleaned and restored, but never polished. Major restoration projects in the 1980s, and later ensured that her structure remained strong, but the green skin was always preserved. Engineers know that the patina is what keeps her safe, and the public knows that the patina is what keeps her iconic. It's the perfect marriage of science and symbolism. So why wasn't the Statue of Liberty originally green? Because she was never meant to be. She was born copper, shining like the dawn, and she became green through time, weather, and chemistry. But in that transformation, she gained something even more valuable: permanence. She became a monument not just to liberty as an abstract idea, but to liberty as a living, enduring force that can adapt, survive, and inspire across generations. Next time you look at her, whether in person in a photograph, or in a film. Remember that the green you see is not paint, not design, but nature itself. It is the record of more than a century of rain, wind, pollution, and time. It is history written on her skin. And it is also the story of America, a country that, like its most famous statue, started one way, weathered countless challenges, and emerged, transformed but stronger than ever. Lady Liberty wasn't originally green, but perhaps she was always meant to be.